start to put tension on my string drawback, I was like, okay, I'm gonna stop.
It's him. You can look at the horns when he's dead. I'm in the zone. Let the arrow go is perfect.
So when they lose their front shoulders, you start, that's how you know it's smoke.
Went about 5-10 more yards. He probably went 20 yards, a little step, then we would try to get back up. And I saw him fall up.
We rushed 4 meters rods that night. We got like 156 and something like that, and then the next day we came up to 163 even.
You're listening to the White Cat Outdoors podcast, bringing you to the table where we talk about the outdoors.
What's up, everybody? Episode 137.
Yeah.
There was some debate before.
There was no debate. I was right. You were wrong.
There was a debate, though. We debated about it for a minute. In the end, you ended up being right. It's episode 137. And as you know, Nick's here. Tom's not. He popped back for an episode or two, and he's gone again. He's got plenty of work to do.
He's living the biker life on the podcast.
He is.
He just never knows.
Comes and goes as he pleases. And so, in his stead, we have
Captain
Jack. Captain Luke Sparrow.
What's going on, guys?
Is that the first time you've been officially introduced as Captain Luke?
Officially, yeah. Like on the record, first time, yeah.
Well, nice. I'm honored that we could say that.
On episode 137.
Yeah.
To make that clear.
With no debate.
None. Absolutely none.
There's no debate.
So
no, please, Nick.
I'm just curious, Luke, why are we referring to you as Captain Luke now? Like, how much did you pay us?
Well, I didn't pay you anything, but I did pay a hefty sum to obtain the title of captain. But right now, currently, I am what's classified as a 6-pack certification. So there's some limitations with it regarding number of passengers, size of vessel, etc. that I'm allowed to operate. But I am currently in the process of getting my master's captain's license, which should be probably about 2 months, just with how busy I am before I obtain master captain. But it's in the works and will be obtained shortly.
So your 6-pack captain's license, what is that through? Is it
It's a Coast Guard. Yeah.
So the U.S. Coast Guard? So it's like an official...
It's a federal thing. It's not a state thing.
Yeah, no, not a state thing. I can take this license all over the country and surrounding waters, in the ocean, pretty excited about that. I'm looking forward to it. This year I'm not really going to be advertising. I don't even have my business established yet. First step was just getting the license, and then down the road I will probably over the winter, when obviously fishing season up here is on the ice. It's on the hard waters, we call it, which I'm getting excited for, by the way. I know it's early, but for some reason it's
been waiting.
I enjoy ice fishing. It's one of my favorite types of fishing.
Yeah. Most people, the first couple times they go out, they don't have a great time and they give up on it. But I think you have select few people that do go out ice fishing, it's one of their favorite styles.
I think you have to understand your expectations and understand that it's a totally different style of fishing. It's well, obviously you're on the hard water, so it's totally different. But I think people get they just don't understand what they're getting into and have a false sense of what they're to expect.
Walking through the snow, dragging your ice hut, setting it up. It's cold. But no, it is a good time, though. I love it, especially once you figure out some good spots and some tactics. But anyway, so while that's going on, I'll be establishing, a website, a business, and whatnot. And then next summer, we'll be promoting and running trips as, if everything goes well, as a master captain, knock on wood.
So is that Massa Captain, Luke?
Yeah, I will ask everyone to refer to me as Massa.
Okay, perfect.
But no, it was a long process for me. I know some people can crank it out in a couple weeks, or sometimes even shorter. But it took me a few months.
But it's essentially you went back to school for something.
Yeah.
And you work full time.
Yep, I
You
work
help with White Cat,
full time, yeah, and
softball. Like you just.
Had a bunch of other prior commitments going on. I was still actively fishing.
I was gonna say, and you like to fish.
Yeah, so none of that really slowed down. I just spent some more hours on the laptop and just kept slow and steady at it, and finally got it. So that's pretty cool. There's a lot of new things, new doors that opened up for me. I could go into towing and just a bunch of different avenues.
So you gonna buy a tugboat?
No, I don't think so. But you can captain for
Is it like
other people.
tractor pulls and stuff where you hook to other boats and pull?
I have never seen that, but that could be a new sport, new water sport to get into. We could start that.
Nick's really into water sports.
I love water sports.
I bet you do. But no, so I'm just.
So is the Massa Cap'n? Is that going to be even more extensive, or does it kind of piggyback on your 6-pack? And
so the Masters is, from what I've obtained, I've just briefly looked over the course, but I have access to the full course and just kind of glazed over it, and it seems like it's more geared towards like bigger boats, bigger vessels up to 100 tons. And there's not as much inland. It's all like
navigable.
Yeah. So it's not. It does probably piggyback a little bit off of what I learned in my 6-pack. Obviously, you're going to need to still have that knowledge.
Yeah.
But I
it'll
believe
still
it's
be
just
pretty
more,
extensive.
More extensive, yeah. And it looks like it's about the same length as the 6-pack certification. So took me X amount of time to get my 6-pack. It'll roughly be about that same amount of time. I'm hoping it's a little bit shorter, and then I can devote some more time and stay more
if you
focused
do it
on it.
towards the winter, then you won't be near as busy as you
I'll
are
have,
in the summertime.
I'll have more time to do that. So,
what got you interested in looking into getting your captain's license? I mean, you've been fishing since you could walk, basically. Like, what sparked your interest in this?
Well, you got to be 18 to get your captain's license. So the idea started, about 4 years ago when I turned 18, and I'm already going out there. I take my buddies out fishing. I take family, friends, everybody out. And,
friends of friends.
Yeah, and the just keeps expanding, and I got more and more people asking, to go out fishing, and just as going out for fun. And I thought that it would, be cool if you could, people say find a job and make money doing what you love. And if I could figure out a way to make money fishing, it's not a bad gig there. Even if it's, not my main source of income. If it just
you do a
pays for
couple
my
things
hobby,
on the weekends.
Yeah, if it pays for my hobby, then that's more than enough for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I got the equipment to do it, the boat, that's the big thing. I have that, and then all the rods and reels and equipment. So all I got to do now is just be official and
become a master.
Start making money, yeah. So
Good deal. Well, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we're so proud.
Yeah,
but
it's
on
big stuff.
Kind of the same note, like I said, I've still been going out fishing, and as it gets a little bit hotter and the fish are moving out deeper, this year has been different than most years. There's been a lot of small fish that people have been running into. I've always, even last year we started to get into a lot of small throwbacks, but this year I've heard numbers of people throwing 20 plus fish back that were, catching. They caught 30 fish, and 23 of them were shorts that they had to throw back.
Really?
So
Now, you said you've heard from other people. Does that mean you're not having this problem?
no, I haven't had that 20 problem, but I've definitely been into the double digits of throwbacks in a trip. So that kind of sparked me to try some new things. And a lot of the charters that are out there now, or the retired guys that go out all the time, can put some more time in the water and explore and test out things to try and locate some bigger fish and where the schools are. So for me, sometimes there's 2-3 weeks in between when I can, if the weather's not right on a weekend, can't really get out during the week. So I won't be out there for a couple weeks, and I'll just have to kind of go out blind and try and figure some things out. So last week we went out and we started fishing kind of shallow and started out really hot. I mean, we got out there at 5:30. We were probably
in the morning or evening?
In the morning.
Okay.
We're setting our rods out, and sun's just barely coming up, and we weren't even getting 3 rods out, and we were pulling one in with fish on, and it was just boom, boom, boom. But we only kept probably 4 out of the first 10 fish that we caught. And as the boat traffic picked up, like I said, we were in shallower water. So the fish were kind of affected, I believe, by all the boat traffic running through and people, motoring past us, making white water. So fishing slowed down a little bit. And I asked, my buddies that were on the boat if, hey, I haven't tried it yet, but you want to, try a new spot, or we can sit here and, pick 1 or 2 up every, couple minutes, or we can go try and find a new spot that's got some bigger fish, and it might be a little bit slower. I have no idea what the expectations are. So they said, well, if it's worth a shot, then if you think that we're going to get something and it might be worth it, then let's go try it. So I kind of took a risk there and pulled all of our lines in and made way to a new spot and set our rods up and got a little discouraged at first. We started marking some fish, some bait, and for the first probably half hour, we didn't even have, a sniff on, any of our baits. I had, baits all through the water column, and as Aaron Weeb would say, you got to explore the column.
You do.
So
That guy's great.
I had them from, a couple feet below the surface all the way down to dredging the bottom. Mm-hmm. And I had, 4 rods basically in every section of the water column, and wasn't picking up anything. Was marking a couple fish, but nothing. And finally, one of our downrigger rods went off and reeled it up, and it was a nice walleye. And so we set that rod back down, and I was like, all right, well, let's make some adjustments here. And we changed a couple things. Still really wasn't paying off. And I actually had a buddy of mine call me, and he was having the same problem that I had in the shallow water. He was, hey, we're picking through a lot of small fish. I saw you, pull your lines and make some whitewater to a new spot. Like, is it worth it over there? And I'm just telling him, like, look, we've been out here for 45 minutes and we got 1 fish in the box out here. We picked up a couple in closer. And he was like, all right, well, let me know. And so we, moved in shallow, moved out deeper, moved in shallow, just, being that guy, everyone trolls east and west, and I was going north and south. They always love that. But I wasn't bothering anybody. There was not a whole lot of people out where I was.
If they got something to say, just tell them you're a friggin' captain. They can shut their mouth.
Most of the guys out there are captains. Let's just say most of them, but a lot of them.
A lot of them, yeah.
But no, we were, like I said, it was kind of a risky shot because we were in the pack, and that's I think what shut the fishing off. So I went and moved way out of the pack and tried the shallow water again, but there was less fish over there. Tried deeper water, and anyways, long story short, I was resetting my rods out. We made a couple adjustments, changed some colors up, some sizes, and I was setting a dipsy rod back out. And what I do is I turn my clicker on and loosen my drag, so I can still hear the rod go out, and but I can control the speed that it lets the dipsy out. Because if you let them out too fast, they can flip and spin. And it helps me set more rods out at a time. So I had my dipsy sitting in the rod holder, loosen the drag, and it's just tick, 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 just slowly putting the dipsy out. I run to the other side of the boat, start letting the dipsy out on that side. And so I have 2 dipsies going out, and I set the first one that I was letting out and started putting the second dipsy out on that side. As I was setting that dipsy out, the first rod on the second side of the boat was, tick, 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 zzz, just started going. So it got hit on the way out. I was like, oh, buddy. So tightened up the drag on that, pulled it, gave it to one of the guys on the boat. He started reeling it. And in the time that I was messing with that one to hand it to the guy, the other dipsy that I was letting out also got hit. So I, kind of took note of where they were at. And so they were a little higher up in the water column. So I handed that rod to another guy and started pulling in. So I was setting out 3 dipsies, had one set, one got hit on the let out, the second got hit on the let out. So now I have 2 fish on and the first one that I had set. So to get that one kind of out of the way of the other ones, I reeled that in a couple feet, and because the fish hit higher up, we got the 2 fish in and boated those, started setting the rods out, and we got another one on that first dipsy. So while that one's going, I called my buddy back that had, called me like, hey, is it worth it out there? And I was like, hey,
Starting to be worth it.
I know we just got off the phone, but I'm not telling you to come out here because it was just a very short moment. But we found some fish, and he was like, well, how you doing? And I'm like, well, we got one on right now, and we just boated 2 in like 10 minutes. So he's like, all right, well, keep me posted. So we brought those fish in, and I had marked a waypoint on the first school of fish, or the first 2 fish that we had. And what a lot of people do is they'll go out and they'll just troll one way, and they might turn around and troll back the other way. And sometimes it's tough in big groups, but little tip, if you're out there and you are catching fish in a spot and you mark it, run figure eights on that spot. If you got the room, just keep hitting that spot, because there's a reason that those fish are active right there, whether it's, the water temperature, the structure, whatever it is, the depth of the water, where your presentation is. So we just kept figure eight in that same area, and we ended up picking up one of the biggest walleye I've ever seen. It was probably close to 12 pounds.
That's a hog.
And yeah, it was absolutely enormous.
It just looked like an old fish.
It
like,
stunk.
I believe it, because like I the picture of it, like I'm telling you, I've never seen a walleye that looked like this. It just looked old.
Yeah, I pulled it into the boat, and I'm gonna show Frank a picture of it so you can hear a reaction. But we pulled it into the boat, and it immediately like started stinking. And the guys on the boat looking for food, they were younger college kids and wanted to fill their freezer. And I was like, look, this fish might not be the best tasting walleye you've ever had, but they're like, no, we'll cook it up real good, we'll bake it, whatever. And so we ended up keeping it. But here's that fish. Like, it's just
a freaking slob. That's
yeah,
a big fish.
It's just absolutely massive. And we took a couple pictures of it, and I have it sitting next to our fillet knife so you can see like the girth on it. And it was just a fat fish.
Yeah.
And so we got that one in, and
Well, mind you, there was a tournament going on.
oh yes, there was a tournament
That he was
the day
not
that
in.
I was out. I was not in the tournament, but
That would have been an expensive fish.
I was catching some tournament quality fish that day.
Yeah.
But no, it was a good time. We ended up catching some mixed species. We caught some steelhead. We had a couple small jacks. We had one that was probably about 9-10 pounds that we brought in. So I guess where I'm going with this is don't be afraid to move away from the group. Before I was right in the middle of the pack, and I had actually the middle of the 2 packs. There's 2 main launches where I like to launch out of on Erie, and there was a big group west of me and a big group east of me, and I was kind of in the middle of both of them, and I could see them all they're all
slowly
coming towards me, and so I ended up getting in the middle of all of them, and we're trolling back and forth, and that's when we made the big move out. And I probably could have counted 200 boats while I was at my first spot, and at my second spot there was maybe 4 boats, you know, in my area. But it's hit or miss. I've done the same thing, and I've moved, and there's a reason nobody's over there because there's no fish.
It's a scary feeling with, you know, a new group on the boat too. Frank and I had a similar issue with some snake hunting this year with some new guys. We went to our first spot that, you know, is typically really hot. We hiked over 5 miles and didn't find a single rattler, and we picked
Pressure feels like it's really on.
Yeah, we're like, okay, we got to make a move here. We got to get some snakes. Yeah. We packed up and drove 2 hours. To a new spot. I mean, it's same concept you're running into. We had, you know, new guys. You're trying to put them on fish. It's not working. Yep. You just got to trust your instincts.
And I wanted to go out. So this particular trip was on a Sunday. I wanted to go out Friday, and because I had another group of guys that wanted to go out on Saturday. So I hadn't been fishing in probably 3 weeks. Well, that's a lie. About a week, but the week prior that I did go fishing, we fished for probably about 20 minutes, and then the lake got
was
pretty
that when
angry.
you were in like 15 footers?
Yeah, it was what I saw out there was max probably. I saw a double-digit wave out while we were out there. It was, we were driving. I got the Hughes Craft, which has a, you know, big closed cabin in it, and we were coming down a wave, and the wave in front of us just happened to break, and it broke on the roof of my boat. So it was a little hectic for a little while, but once we got the boat up and moving, and, you know, we're a little bit faster and had more control of the boat, it was, you know, obviously not a fun ride in, but we cruised out, and we had the sticks all the way thrown down, and we're cruising full speed out to our spot. And so you just got to, you know, really pay attention, know what you're doing out there. If you're not comfortable, obviously don't get that, you know.
Well, the problem, Lake Erie is kind of dangerous in that aspect.
It changes up on you quick. Yeah. By the time, if you have, you know, planer boards out and rods out and everything, and the lake starts turning up, by the time you get all your lines in and, you know, pull your trolling motor up and drop your big motor and everything, the lake could completely
go
pull
from glass to 6 footers.
He said it went from almost glass.
It was probably, you know, 1 to 2s, 2 foot or less was probably the reading on it. To I believe on the Walnut Buoy, the max wave reported was like 9.8 or something, and we were, you know, a little bit further from that buoy, and it was choppy out there.
It was all a 9.8.
Yeah, it was choppy, but so we got back in. So anyways, I didn't really get to explore and fish that day like I had wanted to. So on my Saturday trip, I was going out, and my buddy that I work with brought his father-in-law and one of his other buddies and his son. And so we were going out there, and I wanted to try the spot that I was trying to try Friday. And it was just not happening because one guy was not feeling well. He was puking over the side. The other guy was kind of queasy, and opened up the window, and I was like, "Hey, you doing all right?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll be fine. And then he started puking, and so there was
good group of guys.
There was only one guy and a 10-year-old kid that were fine, you know, running around the boat reeling all the fish in. Everybody else was yakking over the side. And
it's a different kind of queasy, is that seasick. I mean, you can't do anything.
Our buddy Jeremiah, he thought it'd be a good idea to just, you know, instead of going to bed and then coming over to my house, you know, in the morning, or just sleeping at our house in the morning and waking up, he was just going to stay up all night and then met me at my house at 4 and didn't sleep. So,
I'm sure you didn't have anything to drink the night before either.
No, there was a lot of bubblies, you know, sparkling waters consumed.
A lot of NAs.
Yeah, so he sat in the passenger seat, and I don't think he stood up once the entire trip. He opened his window and closed his window a couple times, but I think that was about the max movement we got out of Jaya.
That's funny.
So anyways, that was the Saturday trip. We still caught fish. But it was same thing, small fish, a lot of throwbacks. And then Sunday, actually, the same guy that I called and was like, hey, or he called me and was like, hey, anything going on out there? Is it worth it to come out? I sent him a picture of my fish finder at a certain area, and he was like, buddy, you should start fishing. And I was like, nah, I'm going to try a new spot. And sent him another picture and looked even better. And he was like, why aren't you fishing? And I was like, it's not the spot. I had a spot in mind that I was going to, and I was going. My fish finder would start lighting up, so I'd kind of slow down. That's when I sent him a picture. But then I kept going to the spot I wanted to go to. And when I got there, it looked good, similar to the first two spots that I cruised through. But it ended up paying off, and we got into some really nice fish. But
Nice.
Definitely the biggest fish I've got into this year, and that, big walleye was probably the biggest that's ever been on that boat. It was a absolute stud.
Yeah, it was a giant walleye. It was good fish.
But I'm excited to, do some more exploring as some time frees up. Actually, sitting right next to us, Uncle Frank, Frank's dad, I talked to him a little bit about trying some new things and going out and exploring. And it's different, and you got to have a good crowd with you. I know you know what it's like if you're kind of going in blind and you have somebody that's, not really with it, and you don't catch a fish in the first 20 minutes and they're complaining like, hey, how long are we going to be out here? What time are we going in?
That's like the dreaded question. Like if somebody asks how long you're going to be out here, they've already decided they want to go back.
Yeah, they've checked out at that point.
And
and I know that from experience, turkey hunting and deer hunting when I was 10.
Yep.
You know, you're sitting in the rain
Yep.
and nothing's happening. When
That's
I
the
ask
question you
how
ask.
long are we staying out here, I already want to go back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you definitely have to have the right crowd of
there's
people
a small,
with you.
Small group of people, and Uncle Frank's definitely one of them. He went with me the first couple times I ever went lake trout fishing, and we got skunked and picked up one fish, and just it was miserable out there. But there was never a complaint thrown. It was we're trying something new. We don't know what we're doing, and
The old
then
Joe
we end
Dirt,
up-
I'm new. I don't know what to do.
But anyways, I kept at it, never got discouraged, and was pretty successful this
You had a
spring
good
at it.
season
Yeah.
for Lakers.
And same thing with this new kind of fishing that I'm not going to disclose what I'm doing yet. Hopefully you can see some pictures, but I have a couple people in mind that I'd invite out there that I know that they'd just be out there having a good time, whether we get into them or not. That's all part of it, just exploring. And any day out on the boat's a good day.
It's tough to have a bad day on a boat.
Yeah. So,
A couple cold pops and you'll be ready to rip.
oh, buddy, some bubblies. But no, so I mean, that's really all I've been up to lately is just trying to get out when I can, and it's just kind of throwing a blind dart at the wall and
That's how you
picking
learn,
a
though.
spot. Yeah, it's not as easy. When I was steelhead fishing on the streams and was going every single day, I had those fish mapped out. I knew where they were, what the weather was going to do to them, and I could just go out and catch them. And I'm still been, successful this year. I haven't, gone out and got skunked. We've been, we went out with your buddy Ken, Nick, and Tom. Kevin, sorry. And, pulled in a limit of walleye. And we got our limit that day, didn't we?
Yep.
Yeah. And so I pulled limits in quite a few times this year, but there's also been some times where, we were a couple fish short of limits. So you just gotta take what you can get. If I'm not out there and don't really know where they're at, you just gotta.
It seems like it's harder for you to get your spots like stolen per se when you're on a boat versus like stream fishing for steelhead. Because I noticed, a lot of places you used to go steelhead fishing that were totally secluded are now just absolutely littered with people, where putting yourself in a boat makes it a little harder, and there's just so much more space and more opportunities.
There's so many people out on the water, like my spot there's
Yeah.
50 other boats fishing my spot. Like it's
Yeah.
not a
Yeah, but I'm
it's
saying
not
that
a secret.
because it's like open water,
Yeah,
there's
it's
just so
like-
much more opportunity out there.
It's like ice fishing, you know.
Yeah.
You can go out there and obviously you get the guys sometimes that's set up right next to you, and you're like, come on.
Well, if
like,
you're on the brush pile.
yeah, you know.
You got to do what you got to do sometimes.
Just give me some space. But no, ice fishing, you can stack up a bunch of huts in a pretty small area, and everybody's catching fish if you're on them.
And you're not
Whereas-
bothering anybody either.
Yeah, you're in your own little shack. And I actually last year I probably count on one hand the number of times I set up my shelter, and it was never for me. It was for the people I was going with. I bought a really nice. Actually, I didn't buy it. I was gifted a very nice ice suit that I stay. It could be negative out when we went up to Michigan. I think it was like -5 and the wind chill was like -19 or something. And I was outside, never had to put my hut up. You just put your back to it and keep your face out of the wind, and
You're good to go.
You're set. Yeah, if you can keep your hands and your feet warm,
You
that's
can last a long
You
time.
can last all day out there. Once your toes or your hands start going, your trip starts shortening pretty quick.
Yeah.
And I got some gear to help me out with that. Actually, it's gonna sound strange, but if you want to keep your feet warm, look at a pair of moon boots. I promise you probably won't see another pair out on the lake, because I have them and I've never seen another pair out there. But they feel kind of lower quality made.
They kind of feel like, I put them on, they feel like snowboarding boots.
Yeah, a little bit. And they don't look like your super expensive $300, white rubber, double insulated, 10,000 grams of insulation, whatever it is. But I can tell you right now that I've never worn a boot warmer than the moon boots. I had the Arctic Woodies from, is that Muck that makes those?
I'm not sure.
The Arctic Burleys.
No, I think they're called Woodies.
Oh, I don't know.
But anyways,
Burleys are lacrosse.
yeah. But anyways, I bought a pair of those, and the moon boots keep my feet warmer than all of those. So
They look like almost like Eskimo boots. Basically,
Yeah.
it looks like that's what Eskimos would wear.
yeah, and they're awesome. They're not the most mobile. I kind of hit my gas, my brake pedal, and my clutch all at the same time. They're about 14 inches wide. No, they're not quite that bad. But
It's like having
they-
a snowshoe built into your boot.
Yeah, they are a wide boot though. But I don't know how we got on ice fishing. Oh, spots. But yeah, when you're out on the lake, there are guys that, will try and follow you. And if they recognize you or your boat or whatever, they'll try and, follow you out. But like I said, there's hundreds and hundreds of boats out there, and they're all in a small area. So it was like, you remember back in the day, perch fishing.
Oh my goodness! You could almost cast
Yeah.
your line into the boat
Yep.
next to you
My grandpa was
once you got on them.
always, I don't know why, he had to be the first guy out there for some reason.
And the
that's
first
just-
guy back with his limit.
Yes. But I think the reason we got out, that was more important, being the first guy back at the dock. But so we had to get out there early. But we would go out there, and you'd be set up and no boats around, and you'd have
We'd be
your
set
head
up
down.
in pitch. Like it was
Yeah.
like dark.
Yeah. You'd have your head down, tying your bait on, and you drop down, and it seemed like you would, look up, and then there's 50 boats
Yeah,
around
you'd like
you.
just be like catching fish, left and right, throwing them in the cooler, and then like after you get like a little slow period, and you like look up and you're like,
Wow.
whoa, like
We're surrounded. But that's kind of how it is, out on the lake too. If you're out there at 5 a.m, a lot of the guys don't get out there till 6 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock. And so you're out there in the first hour or so, you kind of have the lake to yourself, and then it starts filling in pretty good.
So how, what would you say? Like, are most people pretty courteous on the water, or do you run into a lot of jerks that? Because when you're running planer boards and everything,
Yes.
you're taking up a large surface area, if you will. Like, what's the nature of everybody out there most of the time?
So there are a lot of guys out there that know what they're doing, how to operate a boat. If you're coming head on with somebody, a lot of people, you just turn starboard, passport to port. And most people know that. It's just like driving. You stay on the right
Yeah.
side of the road, and you're good to go. When you're seems like when you're walking down a hallway at school, you stay on the right side of the road.
Yeah.
You know, it just seems like that's just in our blood from driving so much. You just always go to your right. And so and that's not for every case out there. There's going to be people listening like, no, if this is happening, there's a sailboat that's under. I don't care. Go to the right.
Shut up.
So, and that was all stuff that I did have to learn in my captain's course, like in every instance, you know, what to actually do. But anyways, if you're just head on with another boat, you go right. A lot of people know that. If there's a boat, you know, coming north and south, when the big line of boats is trolling east and west, and there's a boat, you know, coming north and south, you got to realize that, okay, is there plenty of safe distance to pass in front of this boat? If there's any risk that, you know, there's going to be a collision or something's going to happen, you're going to have to make a detour. Now, a lot of times you have boats on your left. A lot of times you have boats on your right. Now there's a guy coming in front of you, and you got to turn, you know, to your right or to your left to avoid this boat that's coming, you know, perpendicular to you. So there's a lot, you know, and you don't always just have to pay attention to where you're going. Sometimes you see that boat that's coming, you know, perpendicular, and I see that, you know, a boat to my right is going to have to turn to its port side to avoid it. So
now you
to
gotta
me
move.
being courteous, I would also move to my port to allow the guy off my starboard side to, you know,
Have plenty of
also have
room.
room to move. Because if I don't move and I just hold course, then he's going to be, you know, having to struggle with me and the guy in front of him. So there is a lot to think about while you're out there, and there's a lot of people that are really good at it and that will help you out and, you know, avoid. But there's, unfortunately, I would say about the same amount that aren't courteous, or maybe it's
not always arrogance. It could just be like lack of knowing.
You know, and sometimes, you know, if you're out there and something happens, you get a bunch of lines tangled up, and, you know, you try and, you know, do something, and, you know, you ask the guy who's driving the boat to, you know, come look at something real quick, or you ask him a question and he turns around to look at, well, I just turned around. You probably couldn't hear me. But the captain turns around to, you know, answer a question, and, you know, things can happen real quick out there. Your boat can start turning. So you always have to have somebody in control of that boat, because if you lose control of it, you know, the captain walks away from his seat, or, you know, a lot of people have the autopilot on, which, you know, really helps, but the autopilot doesn't steer away from other boats. So you still have to, you know, pay attention and, you know, be in charge of your vessel at all times. And there's been a couple times out there where I've had to pull planer boards in and make sharp turns to avoid people, and sometimes it's somebody's fault. Sometimes it's just the nature of how the occurrence happens. You get, you know, 5 boats meeting at the same point, and nobody really did anything wrong, but it's just a rare occurrence that nobody could help. So no, but that is one thing that was nice about taking my captain's course, was I did learn what to do in every situation.
What is actually the right
thing to do, so I can kind of ease my mind. Like if something happens, like,
you know, you did the right thing.
Was that my fault? Like I can kind of clear my mind of that, knowing that I did what I was supposed to do. But I mean, above all, you have to, you know, be safe and avoid collision, you know. So if there's another boat and I'm following exactly what I'm supposed to do by, you know, the rules of the road, you know, that are laid out for me, and by following those rules is going to cause an incident because somebody else isn't, then I can, you know, deviate from that and, you know, avoid. And there's never been a point where I thought my boat was going to get hit or anything, but there's definitely been some times where I would have had to untangle some boards or some lines if I didn't do anything.
So how big of a difference is the test for like just like your general boating license to your captain's license? Because
the boating license is a squeeze.
Well, I knew
so easy.
I knew that it was easier, but I guess what I'm getting at is unless they're grandfathered in, which probably a lot of the guys out there are.
1985.
82, I think.
82.
Yeah.
But either way, so I guess what I'm getting at
One of
is
those dates.
there's probably a group of people out there that actually have no formal training.
Correct.
And then what kind of education is like a general boating license?
Not much.
Like
at all.
a learner's permit version of a
Basically.
driver's license?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's super, super simple. They talk a lot about jet skis, about like boat safety, stuff like that. It's very, very basic. I think I finished my test in like 8 hours. I sat on the couch, opened up my laptop, answered a bunch of questions, and got my cart in the mail. It was super, super simple. Not quite the case with your captain's license.
No, I knew it was going to be a big upgrade, but I
you're-
guess just trying to figure out what kind of level of
that's not
education.
the problem. It honestly, the people who went and got their boater safety course, that's what it is. It's a boater safety course.
Oh, okay.
It's how to be safe on your craft. And it doesn't really go into, I mean, it does a little bit about lighting and everything and avoiding other people, but it's not nearly as extensive as the captain's course. What the biggest issue, I believe, is the people that are grandfathered in that have never operated a boat. Mm-hmm. So I would rather have, a 25-year-old kid that has been on a boat for, since he was 15 and has been on a boat for 10 years with his dad or grandpa or, whoever it may be, and then had to get his boater safety course and then, was operating that craft, than a guy who was 50,
Just
who
retired
just
and bought a
retired
boat.
and bought a boat, has never been on a boat before, but doesn't need a license, doesn't need anything because he's grandfathered in. Those are probably the most dangerous that are out there that have no idea what's going on. And, it's not, I get why they did it because, if you think, mine and your grandpa, Nick, who's been on the boat since he was 10 years old, when they made this rule of a boater safety course, it would have been kind of annoying for him.
He'd been on a boat for 30 years before.
Yeah.
Probably longer, and had probably more knowledge than most people out there. And then they're like, "Hey, you need a license now." Like, really? So
Yeah, I get it.
I get why they made the rule, but it's obviously it's not perfect.
Yeah.
But no, it's just if you're going out on the water, you just gotta be safe. Never overrun your vessel. It's just like driving a car or a snowmobile or a motorcycle, anything. Don't go any faster than you're comfortable. Stay in control, and then even when you are dialed down and you're just trolling or something, just always have your head on a swivel and looking at every other boat, because you get distracted for 2 seconds, you look down at your phone or whatever, you have a phone call, you're not really paying attention, and sooner or later 2-3 minutes goes by and a lot changes in in a short amount of time out there, boat positioning and whatnot. So it's definitely a lot to pay attention to, but I do feel more comfortable out there after obtaining my license.
Nice.
So, I was never afraid to be out there, but there were a couple small things that.
Well, like you said, it kind of puts your mind at ease knowing that you really know what to do now.
Like, was that my fault? Was I supposed to do that? So, but no, it's all good. It's all good. But fishing's only just begun, because every month that goes by, something else is happening. So, people are like, oh, well, walleye's been open for a while. Well, there's new stuff coming in, new styles of fishing. In the beginning of the season, you can jig for walleye. That's a short season. Then you start trolling for them, and some people are still jigging, and then you can, come back in as the fall, comes around, you can jig for them again. So there's always something new going on, different species of fish, different style to catch that species of fish. So I'm always excited for what's coming up. You just gotta, most people, they, I bass fish. All right. And
What do you do?
Yeah, they bass fish for 2-3 months, and then, that's it. And I can't wrap my head around that. I got to fish year round. So no matter what I got to do to get on those fish, I'm going to figure it out. So But
Yeah, we'll definitely have to have you back on later on in the year once you get your UMASA license.
yes, sir.
Talk about that and see what you're up to.
Yeah, hopefully, maybe we'll try and get a white cat crew out there a day where all
That'd be a
4 of
good
us
time.
go out there.
Oh,
and,
we've never done that.
No, we haven't.
We'll all go out there. I'll bring the video camera and I'll make some action. I think I've been saying that for so long. I started making TikToks, so maybe we'll just make a couple TikToks
Yeah,
while we're out
there you
there.
go.
It's way easier. I just record it on my cell phone, edit it on my cell phone, and 5
deal.
minutes and throw it back in my pocket.
People have like their attention span's so short. You start
Oh, yeah.
making videos that are 10 minutes long.
I know. I really want to do it, but it's a time thing.
It's time consuming,
Yep.
Yeah.
no doubt.
But well, thank you again for coming back on and sharing
Yeah, no problem.
what you've been up to.
Yeah, and congratulations on your license, buddy.
congrats.
Thank you.
And like Luke said, he's always finding different species to chase after, and that's just one of the many ways we remain to make sure you guys are all still getting outside.